Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing Magic, and Mysticism. Here to talk to you more about the occult and the paranormal. Well, today I'm going to be talking about something a little different, and that is the subject of breakup work. So what do I mean by breakup work? I mean the act of using magic to break up your relationship or someone else's. Now, the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is, some things to consider, and some ideas if you dare to try this. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first of all, why would a breakup spell be attempted? Well, one, a person could be in an abusive relationship, physical, emotional, sexual relationship, or any type of serious dysfunction that risks safety or even life. And it could be your own or, of course, someone else's. Number two is that let's say that you tried to, or you or the person that tried to break up the normal, logical way, and it doesn't seem to be going well. Meaning that there is a partner who is very resistant, who is not wanting to let go, and it's just getting very messy. That might be another way to attempt this work, another reason. Next, one partner, let's say that someone broke up with their girlfriend or boyfriend, and then the person got together with someone else. So now, I've seen this too, where someone will try to use magic to break up the relationship with their former girlfriend, boyfriend, thinking that once that breakup occurs, then they'll try to get together with that ex. Okay, next reason would be, and I've seen this too, is that sometimes people are just spiteful. Someone gets offended, someone gets their feelings hurt, or some other situation, and they just want to make this person, the offender, suffer or suffer some type of harm. So it's a very kind of petty thing to do, but that is what goes through people's minds and hearts. So let's kind of talk a little bit about these. And I'm sure you can probably come up with a little few of your own. Okay, so before explaining a little bit more, kind of want to mention a few things. First, I am not the ethics committee for magical practice. So I have my own, and I think everybody should have an evaluation of their own morals and ethics when they go ahead and try to proceed with this work, because this work can be a little messy. You're bearing a little bit of responsibility if you do it for someone else, and we just need to kind of be clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and maybe even if we are thinking about it, give it some time to think it through. Make sure that you're not using emotion when you're making these decisions, because it should be a very rational, thought out, and planned decision. So the first thing that I would ask you to consider is that it is always better, in my opinion, to work on this if you are a participant in this situation. So it's your relationship and you're having some sort of trouble. And then as a result of that, you are doing magic to resolve the situation, hopefully peacefully and as smoothly as possible. Why would I say that? And that is because that I believe that there needs to be a sense of responsibility and taking ownership of the situation, and that is much easier to do when it involves you. So I would be very careful if even agree to do this for someone else. For a couple reasons too, is that we don't always know the mind and heart of someone who is asks us to do this type of work for them. And by the way, it's always better to ask permission. And even if you had your permission, again, we don't know the minds and hearts, the deep insides of these people, to know whether this is necessarily the best approach for this. There is a reason why people get together, and if, let's say, the magic works, this same sort of reason, this same sort of attraction, the same sort of bonding could make them get back together. And you've seen this with the cycle of especially abusive relationships, dysfunction and all of that. How this can, even with your best efforts, and if you're successful, it could wind up, person could wind up getting back together with them. So that is, that is a reason that it could be a complete waste of your time. It brings me also to a fact, too, to consider, is that especially if you all are good at divination, it's always a good practice to do divination before you practice your magical work for an attempt at trial of something like this, to see how it's likely to come out. Okay, so let's set that to the side. So that would be a reason to kind of take pause. The second is that when you're, again, I mentioned this before, when you're doing it for someone else, they are not necessarily involved. It's really their situation, it's their life. And if it goes wrong, it's easy for them to point the finger and say, hey, what you did didn't work. This is your fault. So one approach is to take your knowledge and teach the participant who wants to exit how to do this work, and let them do it. And that way it is on them. It is their situation, it's their life, it's their predicament. That being said, if it was a rare situation where the person doesn't have the wherewithal to do it, ask your permission, then if it's within your moral code, then go ahead and consider proceeding. Also, one thing to think about is that you have to be okay with this type of work. Is that, people sometimes talk about karma and backlash and things like that. And the more that I see, it isn't that black and white. However, I will say that if you are somebody who is not comfortable with this, who has reservations, who is likely to have some type of guilt or some type of strong feeling inside them, and they proceed anyway, and it doesn't turn out well, that type of stuff could come back on you. The energy that you're putting out can come back to you, and you could attract it based on this conflict, based on this negativity that you have. So again, this is another thing to consider if you're wanting to go ahead and do this. So, that being said, let's talk a little bit about some ideas about how you might approach this. And these are just, I'm pointing you in the right directions. I'm not going to try to lay out everything, because I really want everybody to explore this, to do a little research, and if you're so inclined, to kind of, practice this in the appropriate situation. One thing to remember too is that breakup work is the same thing as love work, except you're kind of doing it in reverse. But before I get into that, I want to mention one more caveat, and then I'm going to get into it, and that is, despite our best efforts at designing a spell or any other type of work, is that there is an element of it that is kind of unpredictable. That magic has a kind of a life of its own. It seeks the the easiest route to do its work, and that is not always something that we can control. In fact, I was talking to somebody who did a sour jar on somebody, and as a result of that, it took an unexpected turn, and the person who was the target got the coronavirus. And that's not a good situation. That could go into a lot of different ways. That can turn out really bad if it's the wrong person. So let's put this in the right context. Let's say that you went ahead and did some breakup work, and the way that the energy went out to express itself, it hit the target, and let's say that person was having a bad day, and he got into a car accident and died. Now, according to the work, that was a breakup, but it didn't necessarily happen in the way that the magician necessarily intended. Or maybe it did, but you gotta be prepared for anything with this type of work. Okay, set that aside. If you want to do this type of work, here are some ideas. One way to do it is to use some candle magic. So you get some figure candles. Now they come in different ways. Some of them, they have males, females. Some of them, if you same sex, you can they have some candles for that too. Or if they come separately, you can mix and match. Other times they come like with a base where they're sealed together. So what they do is that the way the candles look, if you've never seen them, is that they're facing away from each other, almost like back to back. Different colors, there's white, there is red, there is black. I would do black as kind of, especially because it represents banishing, and the banishing away of a relationship. If it was another type of situation, maybe red would be better if it was going to have some type of, you want to make sure that there was some type of connection, or enough of a connection so that it doesn't go too bad. Like let's say you wanted the couple to separate but not completely dissolve from the person's life forever. Maybe they had kids and they would need to negotiate, the parenting and stuff like that, and custody. Oil. Quote, these candles should be dressed. If the person who wants to exit can put something like protection oil on their candle, maybe some banishing oil on the person that is supposed to leave the relationship, and light them. And of course, I mentioned with candle magic, be sure that since this is a candle not within a glass, be sure that you practice safety, and that you put it on something where when it burns, it's not going to burn your altar or anything like that. If you wanted to put some things into the candles, let's say that the person who you want to leave the relationship, you can actually cut into it a little bit and put some things in it like herbs. Some people are nasty in their work, and they want to put nails in things because they want to punish the person who's exiting the relationship. There are a lot of ways to go about this. When the candles are not separated as part of the package, what you can do is you can actually move them, start one day and kind of them together, and then slowly move them apart across your altar over a period of time, symbolizing their separation. And that's basically it. That's something to start with. Now, another thing that I would do with this is that sometimes it's not just enough to do that. You want to kind of maybe sever a connection. it's going to force people to separate, but there could still be an energetic connection. So I would practice cutting what's called aka cords, aka, I've mentioned it in other videos. It comes from Polynesian shamanism, the Hunas, and essentially what you could do is going into a state of meditation, a light trance, picture the person. If you have some type of clairvoyant ability or ability to sense energy, try to sense the energetic connections between you two or the person that you're working, the couple that you're working on. These cords typically will go from the chakras. It could be the heart chakra, the root chakra, and what you're going to want to do is to imagine some type of energetic apparatus like scissors or a sword, and you're going to want to cut that connection. You're going to want to cut it, you're going to sever it, and that along with the candles would work nicely together. After that, real world type of things to do might be to, if it's your relationship, to get rid of pictures, things that remind you of the person, all these different types of things. You keep them around, especially in view, they can spark old memories and wanting to get back together with this person. So burn them, bury them, throw them away. You want to dissolve the connections between you two if this is a serious type of situation. Give the advice to someone that you're working on. So you want to work a magical level, the energetic level, the aka cords, and the real world level. Try to end it. And that's basically it. Please subscribe and like. I'm going to put, as usual, links at the bottom. My Patreon. If you're interested in looking at my book, you're more than welcome. And this is Bark Henry. Thanks, signing off. And I hope that you have a good rest of the weekend.